Compare our nature in respect of education and its lack, thereof, to such an experience as this. Picture man dwelling in a sort of subterranean cavern, with long engines open to light on its entire width. Conceive them as having their legs and necks fettered from childhood, so that they remain in the same spot, able to look forward only, and prevented by the fetters from turning their heads.
Picture, further, the lights from a fire burning high up and at a distance behind them, and that between the fire and the prisoners, and above them, a road, along which a low wall has been built, as the exhibitors of puppet shows have partitions before the men themselves, above which they show puppets.
All that I can see in my mind's eye.
See also then, men carrying past the wall, implements of all kinds that rise above the wall, and human images in shapes of animals as well, wrought in stone and wood, in every material, some of these bears presumably speaking, and others silent.
A strange image you speak of, and strange prisoners too. Tell me, do you think that these men would have seen anything of themselves or of one another except the shadows cast from the fire on the wall of the cave that fronted them?
How could they, if they were compelled to hold their heads unmoved through life, and if their prison had an echo from the wall opposite them, when one of the passer-by uttered a sound? Do you think they would suppose anything else than the passing shadow to be the speaker?
By Zeus, I do not.
Then in every way such prisoners would deem reality to be the shadows of artificial objects.
Consider, then, what would be the manner of their release and healing from these bonds, and this folly if, in the course of nature, something of this sort should happen to them.
This study certainly compels the soul to look upward, towards light, and leads it away from things here to higher things, like the light itself.
If you were compelled to look at the light itself, would not that pain his eyes, and would he not turn away and flee to those things which he is able to discern, and regard them, again, as in every deed more clear and exact than light itself?
If someone should drag him thence by force of the ascent, which is rough and steep, and not let him go before he had drawn him out into the light of the sun, do you not think that he would find it painful to be so haled along, and would chafe at it, and he came out into the light, that his eyes would be filled with its beams, so that he would not be able to see even the things that we call real?
Why, no, not immediately. There'll be a need of time and habit, I take it, to enable him to see the things higher up.
At first, he would most easily discern the shadows, and after that, the likenesses or reflections in water of men and other things, and later, the things themselves. And from these, he would go on to contemplate the appearances in the heavens and heaven itself, more easily by night, looking at the light of the stars and the moon, than by day, the sun and the sun's light.
Then let him be assisted by the effervescent shadow of the long-winged, baneful dream.
Hestia, daughter of mighty Kronos, mistress of the ever-burning fire, raise these initiates with your sacred rites. Grant them coherence, not only in mind, but heart as well. Increase their power to contemplate and their ability to think. Stir their memory so that they seek the perfection they carry in their heart, rather than the shadow that tempts them to give up pursuit of light. For to pursue that light they would need to leave the cave and ascend to greet the light of dawn.
Give your sacred light to the initiates, so they may ponder and understand that their ascent and their contemplation of the things above is their soul's ascension to the intelligible region.
My dream, as it appears to me, is that in the region of the known, the last thing to be seen, and hardly seen, is the idea of good, and that when it is seen, it must point to us the conclusion that this is indeed the cause for all things of all that is right and beautiful.
This is what gives birth in the visible world to light, and the author of light, and itself in the intelligible world is the authentic source of truth and reason.
Now, anyone who is to act wisely in private or public must have caught sight of this. It is inevitable, then, that those who have attained to this height will not be so willing than to occupy themselves with the affair of men's, but their souls will ever feel the upward urge and the yearning from the sojourn above.
But a sensible man would surely remember that there are two distinct disturbances of the eye arising from two causes, according as the shift is from light to darkness, or from darkness to light.
And believing that the same thing happened to the soul too. Whenever he saw a soul perturbed and unable to discern whenever something,
He would not laugh unthinkingly, but would observe whether coming from a brighter life its vision was obscured by the unfamiliar darkness, or whether the passage from the deeper dark of ignorance into a more luminous world and the greater brightness had dazzled its vision.
And so he would teach, so that others might learn, for education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel.
Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. We can easily forgive a child who's afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. The purpose of education is to give to the body and to the soul all the beauty and all the perfection of which they are capable. Lessons, however, that enter the soul against its will never grow roots and will never be preserved inside it.
A library of wisdom is more precious than all wealth, and all things that are desirable cannot be compared to it. Whoever therefore claims to be zealous of truth, of happiness, of wisdom, or knowledge, must become a lover of books.
books give a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. Therefore, the measure of a man is what he does with power.
Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. And what then is the food of the soul?
Surely, knowledge is the food of the soul. Therefore, let us make every attempt to awaken them.
The process of awakening has its own time. For, as we said, lessons that anchor the soul against its will never grow roots and will never be preserved inside it.
The soul must therefore be ready to receive, so it can leave the cave of its own will.
We will lead the way, and whoever dares to may follow.